Have a look at what the international papers are saying about this story now. Haxi Meyers-Belkin is with me here on set. Of course, it's a story, Haxi, that has repercussions for many other countries, particularly, of course, the UK.
Absolutely. Let's start by taking a look at some of the front pages. And papers really have gone one of two ways. The Times is leading with an image of early morning clashes in Calais, with security forces looking onto one of the fires ignited in protest at the demolition of the camp. Free London Daily Metro went with a very similar image next to the headline, "The End of the Jungle." It's a headline that's actually been used by a number of papers covering this story. The Guardian, meanwhile, a paper that's been covering the Calais migrant crisis for months now, has opted to lead with the more human face of the eviction. This image, you'll see it in a second, shows a resident of the infamous camp talking to immigration officials ahead of the eviction yesterday. Belgian daily Le Soir, you can see it there, has chosen something similar. La fin de la jungle. It's the end of the jungle, and now migrants are preparing for the next phase of their journeys in a climate of incertitude and tension.
You've been very good. You've even opened up the Times as well. We're going to go back to it now. That's because you found a piece, the paper calling it the biggest refugee evacuation in France for decades.
So this piece really focuses on the huge security operation the evacuation of the camp entails. It cites the arrival of hundreds of police officers and heavy vehicles, but it also talks of anticipated attacks from anarchists, many of them from Britain, who we read in this article are intending to confront the police as they begin their eviction. Now, French police have admitted that several dozen radicals are already inside the camp, but they vow to deal with them harshly.
Now, The Guardian, they've seized on one of the most worrying elements, if you like, of this story, the fact that there are some 1,300 unaccompanied children, of course, in the camp, and there are deep concerns as well over their fate once the jungle has been destroyed. What's this piece saying, Haxi?
So to The Guardian again, we read that French and British authorities are racing to process hundreds of children amid fears that the camp's most vulnerable inhabitants could quite simply be lost during the site's demolition. In the past week, over 200 children have been brought to the UK as a result of a government pledge to help unaccompanied refugees and refugee children, rather, and another measure that aims to reunite children with relatives already in Britain. But that represents only a fraction of the total number of children concerned. Lily Caprani, who is from UNICEF UK, is quoted here as saying that if a single child is forced into the hands of traffickers or smugglers during the chaos of the camp's demolition, we will have failed them.
And the same paper has a very moving insight into just some of the reasons why young people are so keen to actually reach the UK in the first place.
So the quote that's used as a headline here is, "I have to get to England. That is where my mother was going." Those are the words of Aaron, who's a 16-year-old boy from Eritrea, who is afraid of being put on a bus and sent to a different part of France. He and his mother fled their country last year, but became separated during their journey through the desert. His mother's plan had always been to reach England, and Aaron believes his only chance of seeing her again is to reach the UK. But there are, of course, others who are happy to leave the squalor of the jungle camp. One aspiring medical student from Afghanistan has already applied for asylum in France. He's quoted as saying that anywhere in France is safer than what he'd fled in Afghanistan.
Now, let's move briefly from the human face of the story to the diplomatic fallout. Haxi's found an interesting piece about mounting pressure in France to do away with the Le Touquet Accord. That's the deal, of course, between France and Britain that keeps border checks on the French side of the Channel.
So this piece, still in The Guardian, reminds us that post-Brexit, France is increasingly keen to pass the problem of mass migration over to Britain. Britain is, after all, where most of these people are desperate to reach. Alain Juppé, who of course is the current favourite to become France's next president, has said he wants to entirely renegotiate the Le Touquet Accord, while Xavier Bertrand, who's the head of the region that includes Calais, is quoted as saying that as the British people have chosen to take back their freedom, they must also take back their borders.